verse 22, Ulladhu Naarpadhu, 40 verses on reality given to us by Sri Ramana Maharshi. மதிக்கு ஒளி தந்து அம்மதிக்குள் ஒளிரும் மதியினை உள்ளே மடக்கி பதியில் பதித்திடுதலன்றி பதியை மதியால் மதித்திடுதல் எங்கன் மதி. This verse has 2 points. One, the Atma shines in the intellect. Of course, and after that, once that light, Atma light shines inside the intellect, we know what all functions the intellect does. It does various things. It studies the external world, it analyzes, it brings about solution, etc., etc. Right? Here, Sri Bhagavan is saying, what is shining inside the intellect, or what is really, within quotes, powering the intellect is Atma. What is powering the intellect is Atma. So he says, turn that light which shines inside the intellect towards Atma. Instead of sending the intellect outward, he says, turn the intellect inward towards Atma. Because the power supply to intellect is Atma. The main switch is Atma. From main switch, power gets transferred to the intellect. Now he says, turn that light which makes the intellect shine forth, you turn it towards Atma itself. Instead of sending it outwards, he says, send it inwards. Instead of doing this, he is saying, how can you measure that light which shines inside the intellect through the intellect? So it is not possible, because it's like a baby trying to evaluate the father, so to say, a 3-year-old baby, for example. How can the baby judge a father or understand the father? That baby himself is functioning because of the cause of father-mother relationship. Here that father-mother is Atma. Atma is powering the baby. The same way Atma is powering the intellect. So he says, Atma is shining forth in the light of Atma. Intellect is shining forth in the light of Atma. Turn that light towards the Atma itself, instead of sending it outwards. He says, how can you evaluate or how can you judge Atma through the intellect, which itself is functioning because of the light of the Atma? That is the point. See, this is an important point. Now, when we start our inquiry, we start with what is called our mind and intellect, right? And Shastra says, Shankara says, Mano Buddhi Ahankara Chittani Nagam. I am not the mind, I am not the memory bank, I am not the intellect. None of them. In fact, the Panchakosha Viveka, the discrimination of 5 sheets says, I am not the body, I am not the breath, I am not the mind, which is memory, etc. I am not the intellect. I am not that blissful state, ignorant state in which I am in deep sleep. That is called a bliss state. Of course, that is not the real Atma state. It is temporary state given to us by Ishvara so that we can sleep peacefully. When we sleep, Atma only is present. But the next day morning, Atma doesn't continue. The ego rises. So we can get a clue from deep sleep. So these 5 states, I am not. I am not the body, I am not the breath, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect, I am not the bliss state or peaceful state found in deep sleep. Then who am I? If buddhi itself I am not, intellect itself I am not, who will know that I am Atma? See, before Vicharam, self-inquiry, I thought I was this body. So, Guru instructed, you are not the body, find out your true nature. So, I have started my journey. I am doing Vicharam. Every time a thought arises, I ask which is the source of this I thought. Who is powering this thought? Who is behind this thought? Who is behind this mind, intellect, etc.? Who is behind the operation of the senses? I am inquiring. Finally, a jnani, once who has realized himself, knows himself. And after knowing themselves, rishis have written books. They have given us the knowledge. They have transferred the teaching. So, the knower seems to be constant. Before enlightenment, even after enlightenment, the knower seems to be constant. But that knower, it is said, even Shankara says that only the buddhi knows the Atma. The sharp intellect, to the intellect only Atma is revealed. Sri Bhagavan says, Tana iruttale tannai aridalam. You cannot know Atma. Knowing Atma is being Atma. I think this is something we should not spend our time unnecessarily on, because supposing I am from India, I want to see London. I can see videos, I can read about it. It is not going to be equal to my own direct visit to London. I need to take a flight ticket, fly, land there, and then go around and see what London is all about. Same way, Atma Jnanam, self-realization, how will that state be? Why worry about it? All that is in our hands is to do vicharam. Of course, we do get clues that jnanam or enlightenment or self-realization is that state within quote in which everything is one. There is no differentiation at all. I am not a separate individual. This world is not separate. Everything is one. As Sri Bhagavan says, gold is one, ornaments are many. The same way, Atma is one, and the entire universe is just like ornaments made out of that one gold, which is Atma. So there must be some litmus test if somebody has realized. To an ordinary person, sadhaka, if someone goes and asks, hey, are you enlightened? He might have doubt. As Shastra says, he has to say, I do not know if I am enlightened or not. Because Shastra says, if somebody says you are enlightened, I am enlightened, which means he is not enlightened. If he says I am not enlightened, he is enlightened. This is said in Kena Upanishad. So, my experience and my understanding is that let us do our due diligence and homework. Let us do vicharam. Because in another place it is said, Thayumanavar, a poet saint who lived in Tamil Nadu, he said, if you realize that will tell you that you are realized. So here we need not break our head. The point is, I thought about it personally. You know, Sri Bhagavan, he spoke not only about after enlightenment experience, he also spoke about enlightenment experience, and he also speaks about his pre-enlightenment period, which means the knower seems to be constant. The knower seems to be constant. Earlier, the knower knew him as Venkatraman, a boy, school-going boy. Upon realization, the same knower says that I am no longer the body-mind, I am universal consciousness, which includes his body-mind also. I am this body-mind and all else. I am Brahman, I am formless, all that Sri Bhagavan says. So this is something you can think about it. My understanding is that let us do vicharam. Let the mind go and subside in the Atma. There are several examples given how realization happens. It is said that mind or intellect is like a river, individuality. When it is driven back to its source, it goes and merges in the ocean that is Atma. Once the river goes and merges with Atma, ocean, can the river retain its individuality? It is not possible. Can the river go and settle down inside the ocean and say that still I am a river? It cannot say. The same way, individuality will be lost, or it will be submerged in the ocean of Atma. Or Sri Bhagavan gives another example. Bhagavan, you are saying that we are not the mind, but through mind only we do vicharam, self-enquiry. Through intellect only we do vicharam. Then how is it possible for us to know or be the Atma? He says, in rural India, those days, whenever they burnt dead bodies, they made a heap, a funeral pyre, and they lit the pyre. And they used to use a log of wood to kindle the fire. they kindled it, up to the state where the body was almost burnt. Then finally they threw that log also into the fire. The same way, Sri Bhagavan says, it is through intellect that you are doing vicharam. The intellect is equal to that log of wood with which you kindle the funeral pyre. Finally, that log will also go into the funeral pyre automatically. So it will not be retained. Simple as that. We start with the mind. With the help of the mind, we do vicharam. With the help of the intellect, we do vicharam. And in the process, as a result, the mind or the intellect goes and merges in its source. And what remains is only Atma, Brahman, our true nature. That's all. There is no confusion at all. So what is left is to do inquiry. Who am I? Am I this body? Am I this mind? Who says I am this body? The mind says. Does it have independent existence? No. Which is giving birth to this mind? Which is giving birth to this intellect? We need to find out. That's all. So, he says in this verse, மதிக்கு ஒளிதந்து மதிக்குள் ஒளிரும் மதியை உள்ளே மடக்கி பதியில் பதித்திடுதல் அன்றி பதியை மதியால் மதித்திடுதல் எங்கன் மதி. Two units, two sections in this verse. That which powers the intellect is Atma. Turn that light which powers that intellect towards Atma. Don't send it outside. Don't entertain other thoughts with the help of the intellect, he says. Okay, turn it inside and make it settle down in Atma, he says. The intellect is trying to go towards outward things like this. Turn it, he says. Turn it inward. And make it get settled in Atma. Okay, the intellect has a tendency, mind has a tendency to go outward, towards outward things. Turn it, he says. Turn it, bring it down. Yeah. Make it settle down in the Atma. So he says, instead of doing that, how can you estimate, value or judge that original power with the help of the intellect, which was after all born because of that power? See, A is Atma, B is intellect. B is there, it owes its existence to A. So, B cannot have so much power to estimate or value A. After all, the B's existence is there because of A. So, he says, turn the B towards A and make it merge in A. That's all, as simple as that. Let us think about it.